Every election season, Bahamians are promised hope, fairness, better days. And every election season, we are warned to be afraid. Afraid of job losses, afraid of retaliation, afraid of what the other side might do with power, afraid of who might fire us, afraid of who might take away benefits, afraid of who might abuse power if they win. But the uncomfortable truth is this: abuse of power does not begin after elections. It happens quietly while governments are in office. Not with shouting, not with press conferences, not with rallies, but with paperwork, with silence, with power operating in the dark, making decisions behind closed doors. This week, the Minister of Labor, Ms. Pierre Glover-Roll, proudly announced sweeping reforms to strengthen the public service, modernize general orders, and ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability for workers. We were told that this government approached governance as builders and reformers, breaking the status quo and protecting employees from abuse. It sounds inspiring. Modernizing the public service. These commitments feature prominently in policy announcements and public messaging. But governance is not measured by intention. It is measured by impact. And at the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas, also known as ZNS, the impact sharply contradicts the rhetoric. The lived reality of two public servants tells a far more troubling story. Immediately following the Davis administration's New Day government's transition, Mrs. Kelisa DeVoe Isaacs, the former general manager of ZNS, and Ms. Sharon Duncombe, former deputy general manager of ZNS, were quietly removed from the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. There was no transparent disciplinary process, no reassignment, no protection under the very general orders now being praised as having modernized safeguards. In fact, at the time of their quiet dismissal, Ms. DeVoe Isaacs, who earned her bachelor's and master's degrees in New York City and a diploma from Oxford University, England, was respected in the Caribbean broadcast field. She had just been appointed Vice President of the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, a first for any Bahamian in the union's 51-year history. Two senior professional women with proven track records of excellence, both over 50, were left without income, without insurance after years of service, even though they were permanent, pensionable public servants. They were not reassigned. They were not safeguarded. There was no transparent disciplinary process, no public explanation grounded in performance, and no visible application of the due process protections that general orders are meant to guarantee. They were simply displaced. The government often speaks about empowering women, strengthening worker protections, and modernizing the public service. These are worthy goals in any democracy, and they feature prominently in official speeches, symposiums, and reform announcements. The decision to remove these long-serving professional women was taken by an all-male board, culminating in the replacement of these women with a male general manager, now politically aligned with the governing party. If advancing women is truly a priority, this outcome raises serious questions, because gender equity is not demonstrated by speeches. It is demonstrated by how power is exercised when careers, livelihoods, and institutional authority are at stake. Removing senior women from permanent public service while strengthening male political leadership is not empowerment. It is regression dressed as reform. What makes this even more troubling is the timing and the context. Public service protection exists precisely to prevent political transitions from becoming opportunities for quiet purges. Due process, reassignment, and institutional continuity are designed to shield professionals from victimization. When those safeguards suddenly vanish after elections, it signals not modernization, but politicization. And when those most affected are senior women, it reveals that equity remains conditional, not structural. This is why the ZNS situation cannot be dismissed as a routine human resource matter. It reflects a deeper governance failure. Protections applied selectively, institutional independence weakened, political alignment rewarded, accountability avoided. In healthy democracies, public broadcasters are insulated from political influence because neutrality is essential to public trust. Leadership is expected to remain professionally independent, not politically active. When that line collapses, institutions stop serving the nation and begin serving those in power. The contradiction is now unavoidable. A government cannot claim to strengthen worker protections while allowing permanent public servants to be quietly displaced. It cannot claim to advance women while sidelining senior female professionals through opaque decision-making. And it cannot claim reform while replicating the very practices reform is meant to eliminate. What unfolded at ZNS and allowed to continue for the last 4 years at the expense of these women, even after it was brought to the attention to the most senior level of cabinet ministers, is not merely unfortunate. It is a textbook example of how institutions become captured when transparency weakens and political loyalty begins to outweigh professional integrity. And once that capture occurs, fairness becomes optional. For 4 years, these permanent and pensionable women were left without income, without insurance, and without institutional support. They were forced to retain lawyers while unemployed, simply to pursue the protection that public service is meant to guarantee. To add insult to injury, 4 years later, even with all the reforms, they were told the the corporation is broke, and were asked to accept 60% of what they were entitled to, while the replacement has already packed their bags, moving on to greater political rewards. They're being asked to accept 60% after 4 years of unemployment, 4 years of legal expenses. At the same time, Cabinet approved increased travel budgets and settlement of a plethora of cases where the Ministry of Finance settled the bills of broke corporations and ministries during this same time. We are told the system is now stronger, but governance is not measured by language. It is measured by outcomes. Is this what worker protection looks like? When a government says progress is being made but offers no transparency, when institutions claim poverty while political placements flourish, when public servants are quietly discarded while loyalists campaign openly, This is not governance. This is power without sunlight. And history teaches us something uncomfortable. Tyranny really arrives in uniforms. It arrives in memos, approvals, silence, and sealed files. And when citizens ask questions, the answers disappear behind closed doors. This is not democracy. This is power without accountability. And Prime Minister Davis recently stated that journalism is being supported and strengthened. The pushback from independent media describing ZNS as something closer to a taxpayer-funded political messaging arm instead of the national utility that was meant to serve the entire country was understandable. The conflict seen by the man running the state broadcaster being seen openly seeking nomination from the governing party while still overseeing the institution is also understandable. In any serious democracy, that would be unacceptable. Neutrality is the foundation of public broadcasting. But here, the line between government and institution has vanished. Today, the most dangerous words in Bahamian politics are not "we will fire you." They are "no details were provided." Reform is not measured by symposium speeches. It is measured by how ordinary people are treated when power is exercised quietly. Until actions match rhetoric, modernization remains a slogan, and public trust continues to erode. Progress is announced, but details are withheld. If workers are protected, why are public servants discarded? If transparency is improving, why are citizens forced to hire lawyers simply to fight for justice? This is not administrative coincidence. It is institutional capture. This is not openness. This is deep state governance. And when power operates in cryptocracy, people suffer in the light. Public servants lose jobs. Citizens lose protections. Families lose stability. Hope erodes. This quiet injustice leads to stress, depression, and in this very country, heartbreakingly, even suicide. Because when people feel the system no longer protects them, despair replaces faith. Until actions match rhetoric, modernization remains a slogan, and public trust continues to erode. Reform is not what is written in press releases. Reform is what happens when ordinary citizens are treated fairly, when power is watching, and when it is not. Until actions match rhetoric, modernization becomes a slogan rather than a safeguard. Recent comments by Minister Mitchell advising party members that they are under no obligation to answer questions from the press reveal more than casual political counsel. They expose a governing philosophy increasingly comfortable with operating beyond public accountability. When leaders suggest that transparency is optional, that public officials need not explain decisions, justify actions, or engage scrutiny, it does not merely weaken media relations. It weakens democracy itself. Because when questions go unanswered, powers go unchecked. And unchecked powers is precisely what allows permanent public servants to be removed without explanation, due process to be quietly bypassed, and politically aligned replacements to emerge without institutional challenge. The displacement of Ms. Devoe Isaacs and Ms. Duncombe at ZNS did not occur in a vacuum. It occurred within a broader environment where scrutiny is discouraged, transparency is delayed, and accountability is treated as an inconvenience rather than an obligation. When leadership signals that silence is acceptable, institutional abuses becomes easier to execute. That is precisely why we need the Freedom of Information laws to exist. The Freedom of Information Act is society's response to power that prefers darkness to daylight. It is how citizens demand to know: why were permanent officers removed? Who authorized it? What rules were bypassed? Why political candidates could campaign while holding public institutional power? Without transparency, silence becomes governance, and silence always favors those in power, never those harmed by it. Public service is not private enterprise. Political office is not personal authority. Institutions funded by taxpayers are not political tools. Answering the press is not harassment. It is democratic responsibility. Explaining decisions is not weakness, it is governance. And when leaders encourage evasion rather than engagement, it signals a troubling comfort with operating beyond public scrutiny. As we move full steam through this 2026 election season, filled with promises, voters must now measure not only what politicians say, but what they have already done when no cameras were watching. Democracy is not protected by party loyalty. It is protected by accountability. And a nation cannot thrive when institutions serve politics instead of the people. Every election season, we are told to listen carefully to promises. We hear about reform, transparency, fairness, modernization, strong institutions. But democracy does not live in speeches. It lives in actions. And today, there is a growing gap between what is being said and what is being done. Election season is also a time when the system moves fastest and quietest. Contracts get signed, appointments get made, debts get approved, favors get granted, all while voters are distracted by rallies and rhetoric. That is not accidental. Before you believe campaign promises, ask: how were people treated when no one was watching? How was power used when citizens were vulnerable? Did leaders protect systems or capture them? Did they answer questions or avoid them? Democracy dies quietly, not with coups, but with complacency. It dies when we excuse wrongdoing because we like the party doing it. It dies when institutions stop serving the people. Let us be honest with ourselves. This election is not about red, black, gold, blue, or purple. It is about whether the Bahamas will be governed by law or loyalty, transparency or secrecy, institutions or political interests, character or convenience. My fellow Bahamians, knowing what happened to these two women who were not contract workers, but who were permanent and pensionable, forced to pay to get justice from a system that promised to protect them, I ask not as a member of the FNM, the COI, PLP, or any political party, but as a Bahamian, as a woman, as a mother, a woman over 50, this election season, vote, but vote informed. Vote by character. Vote by integrity. Vote by who respects systems, transparency, and the dignity of every citizen. Vote not by fear, not by tradition, not by slogans. Vote by character. Because a nation cannot rise when its institutions are captured. A people cannot thrive when power operates in darkness. And a democracy cannot survive when accountability is optional. Transparency is intentionally weakest when power is most active, because reform that lives only in speeches is not reform. Transparency that avoids real questions is not transparency. And power without accountability is not leadership. If institutions meant to be neutral becomes political tools, if protections exist only in speeches, if accountability disappears when power is involved, then no citizen is truly safe. Not today, not tomorrow, not under any party. Let us be the generation that says no more quiet injustice, no more political victimization, no more abuse hidden behind bureaucracy. Let us demand sunlight. Let us demand fairness. Let us demand leaders whose character matches their promises. Then the future of the Bahamas will not be shaped by who shouts loudest this season. It will be shaped by who governs with integrity when the noise is gone. Choose wisely. Our children are watching. History is recording, and the nation is depending on us.